Now here's Kimberly Gogan from the Office of the Guardian. Kim, we missed you Friday.
I missed you too. It was a little bit of a process. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I know. Things have been crazy and we're really excited for your update. So I'm just going to turn it over to you.
All right. Well, I'm going to start with a little bit of house cleaning. Okay, plane flights. Everybody's talking about plane flights. Yes. Should you not fly? Should you avoid flying? And what's the disturbance all about? The disturbance first I have to explain to you what this is. It's called the SABRE system. And the SABRE system is basically what connects all the airlines around the world together. It's the joint booking. It also runs things like the crew members' schedules, right, all those types of things. Everything involved in airline travel. It's tied to the FAA, amongst many other things that, so we don't all airline traffic, everything is all controlled by that. All the control towers are there, and it's a pretty big system. Okay. It was created many years ago to coordinate airline travel. So the other thing that it does as well is, like, if you pay for an upgrade, or you pay for drinks on the plane, or you pay for other items like airline tickets and some other things. If you're paying for those items, it also has its own banking system, so to speak, or a closed loop network, kind of like PayPal, but different. Okay. So Microsoft and the underground base in Seattle were very busy this weekend hacking the SABRE system. They've actually been doing it for quite some time. And their access was restricted. I don't know by who, and they started siphoning money off of the system, and they've been doing it for forever. But now it became more apparent. Over the course of the last few days, they have managed to disrupt air travel everywhere. Yeah. Congratulations, great job. Now, Microsoft is the base software for the SABRE system, so they thought that they pretty much had a backdoor into that system, and it would have been an easy hack and an easy way to get some cash because they're running low on cash. So they got about $2.8 billion or so over the last few weeks. Yep. Wow. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that seems like a lot, but I imagine they would go through that pretty quickly.
Oh, yeah. And the system is very, very antiquated. You get tons and tons of complaints if you have any friends or family that are in the airline industry, be it pilots or flight attendants. They are always complaining about how bad the system is. And if you've ever flown before, then like if you have a delayed flight or something goes, awry, I wouldn't say completely wrong, but there's a little disruption in your travel, and you've got to get booked on another airline or another, flight the following day, then you'll also know that this is like a whole process. I mean, it takes them like 30 minutes to fix your situation. And it's ridiculous. It shouldn't need to be that way. So we decided to go ahead and replicate that system this weekend, last night. And obviously we removed all the Microsoft backdoors and any access the base in Seattle had. And we went ahead and upgraded that system. So it should be working more efficiently now, as of last night. In the US here. So that would have been Sunday night. And they're no longer able to siphon money off the system. So, I appreciate them pointing it out to us. So that was a positive thing that happened over the weekend.
Yeah, well, it sounds like that system eventually needs to be replaced with something else, though. So this is kind of, just to keep them away from the money. But obviously they need a new system if everyone's complaining about it and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So for most Americans, the 4th of July, this is another tidying up here, the 4th of July is allegedly the time of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And, there's been a lot of movies about Independence Day. So there's a movie actually called Independence Day, and it came out in 1996. And that's where we had an alien invasion on Independence Day.
Right.
Well, there's a definite reason for that. And I'm kind of I'm still curious as to why the Declaration of Independence being signed on that day. Because historically speaking, it was a time where the lower astral beings would actually come to the planet.
On July 4th.
Yep.
Why would they pick
give or
that
take,
date?
because it would be like, for example, that day was supposed to be today.
Yeah.
And let's just say the linchpin for all these portals that were supposed to open all around the world is actually in China. So I wonder if that's why the little lizard, troll Yellen is over there in China, hoping to meet some of her families and friends and, that she hasn't seen probably for a while. I'm just kidding. But I'm not really. not kidding. Kidding, not kidding.
Well, there have been some questions, Kim, on Telegram, because we've said before that Janet Yellen has been released of her duties. Mm-hmm. So, but we still see her in the media. So can you kind of explain what's going on there?
Well, first she goes to France because she doesn't work for the United States government. She doesn't work for the people. She doesn't work even for the Treasury Department. She is a figurehead for the order in the Crown Corporation. That's who she works for.
Okay.
She is not a person. Remember, the not a people don't have the ability to think properly.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So she's just ignoring everything everybody says and going along with whatever AI is up in her head.
Gotcha.
And whatever the order tells her to do. So she was in France. And if you've seen what's going on in France, and we'll touch on that a little bit in a second, mm-hmm. And then she goes to China for the annual ceremony of demon catching. So they actually were preparing for a full alien invasion today, to start today. Yes. And we would have started seeing it probably by tomorrow. So we would have actually repeated what's in the movie The Independence Day if they had been successful.
Oh my gosh.
Right. The system was actually disabled that runs this portal system, I don't know, a day or so ago. Sorry, it's been a long weekend, guys. A day or so ago. And since that was disabled, they did see a little bit of an indicator, like a green plasma, it's dark plasma, that they saw attempting to light up. That was just a remaining connection. But there was nothing on the other end. It's like, if your computer is connected to the internet, but there's no internet service coming into your house, then you don't get anything. You can connect it all you want, but that was taken apart this morning. Well, this sent everybody into a full-on panic. So the weirdness, if you're feeling weirdness today, it's for two different reasons. The weirdness is actually coming from a Chinese satellite system that's emitting extremely low frequencies in order to aid this process, because they don't understand why they're not opening and where are their friends. I know it sounds absolutely ridiculous, but this is what's going on. So if you're feeling a little, or have felt a little woozy today, a little bit of head spinning, your brain's not functioning correctly, part of that is for this reason. So it was, don't get me wrong, it was a huge network. It's something that happens every single year. We just did not catch it last year. And since we've been further on in the cleanup process, it was now quite obvious this year, where it wasn't in prior years. So that should dissipate soon as that satellite network disappears from this planet.
Okay.
And we are doing that actually as I'm talking to you. Okay, next. So we covered flights, we covered Independence Day. Let's talk about France just for a second. There is a movie, I think it's a Netflix movie, and it's called Athena. Mm-hmm. If you haven't seen it, it's a pretty good movie, but the plot of the movie and the subsequent events that take place in the movie are exactly to the letter what's happening in France right now. So the movie is about a story where riots take place after the murder of a boy allegedly by the police. Wow. Huh. Wonder where they
Interesting.
got that idea from. So you wonder what's really happening in France. And why is it happening today?
Yeah, it just seems so strange. I mean, of course, that's an unfortunate incident if that took place the way they're saying it took place. But, it's just so weird that it's like other countries are now even advising France on how to handle this. It just seemed like it got so big so quick. I wondered if there was something else behind it because I was like, I mean, it's unfortunate, but at the same time, it's garnering so much news coverage. It's like, what?
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
Look here, not there. Look here, not there.
Right.
And that's part of it. Now, the other part of it is, and part of this portal network, global portal network, where the main hub is in China, but there are many in every country, including the United States. So the idea behind the protests and riots there was also a situation that happened a few days ago with the burning of the Quran and protests in Iraq and other countries based on that, as Saturday was the last day of Eid. And so they're causing these riots. And think about the energy that's produced when you have thousands of angry people in a specific area. It produces a very low frequency.
Right.
So they need some help in opening these portals, and they figure they better make it happen in this type of way. They were also planning on an event in the United States to take place. We caught one of the events so far, and we're still searching. It's coming back up again. They are still planning on trying to do something here, aside from just the alien invasion, when they figured out these things are not opening. So we talked before about the Golden Gate Bridge and how it was over a positive portal that had a dark overlay. It was one of the major portals in the world, and they had intended on blowing up the Golden Gate Bridge either today or tomorrow. I was told on the 4th of July. Yeah, that's what they're talking about. So the bridge had been pre-rigged by the 15 alternative militaries. I believe this one here was an Umbrella Corporation, because there are rogue CIA agents that actually have that information, and they're supposed to go to these sites that have already been rigged. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot going on right now in the world, and this is part of the reason why I wasn't there on Friday, but they intended on torching the entire planet today. So as I'm talking to you, they're figuring out their network is no longer. Now, next, I don't know if you saw this, but 24 hours ago, the White House was evacuated.
Yep.
So the White House being evacuated is directly tied to this, as they put a sensor in the bunkers underneath the White House, waiting for their own reptilian friends to come visit for the 4th of July. Maybe they like hot dogs and hamburgers. I don't know. But that was what the unknown device was that they spoke about in the media. I am a busy person. I just want you to know that,
I don't doubt it. I don't.
So if you get a chance, watch the movie Athena. It'll tell you exactly what they're expecting to happen in France, to the letter. Apparently, that is now the operative manual of the century. You have other operatives that are in Egypt today waiting for an opening. Nothing is happening. So they're all there trying to hack and trying to get into a portal and trying to get connections to computers and everything, because guess what? We have no central bank digital currency, guys. Wasn't it today of the day?
Oh, I don't
know.
remember.
Today, July 1st, everybody was promised.
Oh.
Every single country in the world was promised their digital currency would be live by today.
Uh-oh.
So all weekend long, I think they tried to file the agreement at least 3 or 4 times over the weekend again, and then they'd begin hacking somewhere again. Even some of it's kind of comical, actually. But they are busy. There are a lot of the 15 military corporations, Umbrella, Delphi, you remember all of these names. If not, you can look them up. Most of them are on the ACIO's website. And these militaries, a lot of them, are not wanting the planet to change. They are firmly on the side of the order of reestablishing their quote unquote way of life. And it's not really working out very well. And now they have a lot of people in tow. I'll call them the people in tow. So these are agency people, scientists, people with technologies and whatnot that are far more advanced than we have seen in our world, and they do know how to use them. And they have convinced these scientists that the world was created by utilizing dark matter. Yes. Yes. So they think they're doing nothing wrong. These are the people in tow. They don't think they're doing anything wrong by utilizing dark matter in technologies. They think that that's the way that it's supposed to be. I know, isn't that kind of crazy?
I mean, do they have a chip in their head too? Like this, they're supposed to be smart. Like, what?
But our science is wrong. All our science that we have been taught as humans is wrong. Even the more advanced, quote unquote, people who have worked in some of the underground laboratories and facilities have incorrect science.
Yeah.
Especially since 1998, because by 1998, the others that were working with them to share or steal technologies stopped giving them correct information. So the reverse engineering of technologies by underground military bases and so on and so forth was never really complete. Mm-hmm. And they couldn't figure out why they can't get it to work. So did they have some information? Yes. Were they interested in installing all of this stuff? Yes. But again, science is going to change. It's also changing because the world is a changing place. Right. You know, our energies are different. We've gone through timeline changes. We don't have holographic etherical implants in your optical nerves that make you see dark matter as light. Mm-hmm. It's like a different form of a circadian rhythm. You know, like when the sun comes up, you wake up. When the sun goes down, you go to sleep. But this is like a different form where you're actually seeing only dark matter. So this is part of the reason why the scientists have the science wrong, because they're not, as humans, they've been manipulated and genetically modified to see dark matter as a positive thing and the creator of the whole universe. Remember, these people think Lucifer created the world. You know, and then they based all science and everything else on that technology. So this leads me into agreements. Yes, so now that I've explained that part, so let's talk about what happened and why I couldn't make it on Friday. Okay. So the courier, who I'm going to call him the courier had taken flight, I think it was probably late Tuesday or Wednesday, to travel to another country, which was a long flight, to pick up the alleged agreement. And he thought he was picking up some papers, possibly old, you know, whatnot. And so he sits down at the meeting, and I know this person, and you know, so I'm watching because I wanted to make sure that there was going to be no harm coming to this person. Right. And he probably has the most painful conversation I think I've ever heard in my life. I mean, I probably would have, you know, God bless these people. I mean, honestly, you know, I don't know how long I could have sat there with a straight face. I really don't, you know, and he's telling him the story about what I need to do. And that here is it's a cryptex. And a cryptex is very similar. It's in the coming up, so you can see a picture of it. But it looks like that it's a round tube, and it's got letters and numbers. You remember your old locker combination kind of thing? Oh, yeah. And inside it is where either your papers are or something important. So he sees this, and he's like, okay. And he's hearing and listening to a story that seems rather outlandish. It wasn't the whole story. It was only part of the story. And he was told that when he arrived here, that he would get the password to open it. Well, once I saw that, I'm like, oh boy, now I know what this is. He was instructed to go back from said country, I'll leave it at said country, and to go directly to Colorado Springs, Peterson Air Force Base, home of the Space Force. And the Mitter Corporation is also there. That's the Jason Society of Scientists, so to speak, front corporation. And he's instructed to go there and then come here, which is normal, by the way. You can't really, we have a small airport here. They don't land large planes here, definitely not cross-continental planes. So it's, the smaller of the airlines, maybe 20, 30 rows, those types of planes. And that's what lands here. Mm-hmm. So you would probably take a larger plane, you'd fly to Colorado Springs or Cheyenne or somewhere, and then you would eventually come here.
Yeah.
So he lands there, and there are a group of Mitter Corporation people that meet him, and they take it from him. And they proceed to try to open it themselves. Now, they initially started doing this because they're greedy, because the total amount in the pot allowed and given to them as a number to get this job done was about $500 million. So the orders actually came from China's deep state, and they went from there to the Kuwaitis, who are also members of the Order of the Dragon, to get some money. So they were the ones that put up the $500 million. Now, what I had told this person before departure is that I would I think I know what the agreement is, and I chose my words very carefully. I think I know what the agreement is. I'm not sure if that's the one. I'm not sure what they're wanting, but I have needs too. So it might cost you $50 million. It might cost you $100 million. Could be $200 million. Could be 500. I don't know. So I have to see which one it is they're looking for me to sign. Right. So I have to read it. And I said, read it on purpose, because I'll get to that in just a second. So I'm going to go back to the Mitter Corp people over there. So they're trying to open the box. So because I had overheard the chatter of these people, having made the decision to try to do this, I had disabled the box while the person was in flight.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So it no longer functioned in the way that they had intended it to function. I had to do that because I needed to make sure that just on the off chance they had a technology that could possibly have worked, you don't know, then bad things would have come to Earth. And I didn't want that to happen. Now, I don't think they would have fully gotten the job done, but I had to make sure. All precautions taken. So while it was in flight, it was disabled. Mm-hmm. So then the arguments ensued, and they kept trying till about 3 o'clock in the morning, my time, Friday morning, which, yes, I don't sleep. So yes, 3 o'clock in the morning or so. And then they quit for a little while. And then they went back to it again a few hours later, thinking maybe we're just tired. We don't understand why we can't open this. What is this? And so they tried again, all day Friday. And by Friday afternoon, things were getting very heated over there. Very heated. And they were not letting the courier leave. So the courier is like, am I staying? Am I going? Am I taking the thing? Am I not taking the thing? What am I doing here? And then they said no. And then they said yes. And then they said no. And then they said yes. And they didn't know what they were doing because, they were waiting for instructions from the order. And the order was waiting for instructions from other people in the order who were waiting for other instructions from other people in the order, passing it down the food chain. Mm-hmm. So this goes on for a while. And then finally I'm like, okay, can't call the courier. Would have called the courier, but can't call the courier. And I knew I couldn't. And everybody's got phones and everybody's phones are listened to. This is a known thing, especially in my world. So I decided to call someone else's phone. And I explained in detail exactly what the box is, the cryptex is, exactly what's in it, exactly what it was designed to do, and exactly why they brought it to me, and exactly what was happening over in Colorado Springs. And then I issued a warning shot. I basically explained, if they do not let this person go, I promise you I will be there in just a few minutes and I will burn the place to the ground. It's basically what I told them.
So how did you know, Kim, what was in it? Because earlier we were talking and you said, well, I thought it might be this and I thought it might be that. So did the alpha system help you determine what was in there?
No. Okay, so this is probably the oldest cryptex ever to exist.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you what it is now. So now that you know. And that person, by the way, is out, left a few minutes after that call, maybe within an hour of making that phone call. And now everybody's around here. So let's just say they're all around here now. Okay, so everybody's good. No cryptex included, unfortunately. But when I saw it, so now I'm monitoring this whole situation. So when I saw it, then we figured out what it was. So this cryptex was tied to something. We've talked about the flower of life. Mm-hmm. Well, there is also a flower of death, or a flower that was the beginning of life that exists in the anti-universe. Tied to this flower is the first being ever to exist in the lower astral. Now, everyone probably thinks it was Lucifer, but it wasn't. That is not the first. Lucifer was not, remember the story. He was a fallen angel. He fell down to hell, so to speak, and fell to earth and the whole story. So he actually wasn't originally an anti-being. But right. This party, I'm not going to say person, this party was actually Astaroth. And I might be pronouncing this wrong, but it is a demon. You can look up. It's spelled Astaroth. And this was the first living being to exist other than the flower, which is also called the poisoned rose, which is what I talked to you about when I read that poem to you a few days ago. It was about a week ago or so now. So what was in there? Okay, so this being has been in stasis in the lower astral for a very long time. And this goes along with the story of the devil is supposed to run free for a time and then he'll be chained again kind of thing. And this is also the beginning of the Order's bloodline of anti-portal people beings, and the chips in their head and the crazy people. So inside the box was actually a crystal, and the agreement that is in there is short. It's written in blood. Yes,
that's what they do.
And it was the beginning of the progenitors of the dark side of the multiverse. So they needed my essence to open the box, first of all. And the password to the box is Astaroth. I know. So this had been renewed before, a few times. Every few thousand years, it's done by somebody or other in my position, so to speak.
What exactly, Kim, was the agreement, though, to just let Astaroth still exist in the lower astral?
Well, originally, it was the beginning of life in the progenitor race, which is what creates species. The progenitors are, how to describe a progenitor?
Well, it's like Adam and Eve were that on the light side, correct?
Yes.
And then so you have the same as above, so below.
For
so
humans. For
humans. Okay.
Now, the progenitors span all species.
Oh, okay.
And there are both light species and dark species, and each of us had our own progenitors. Okay. But he was that beginning of life down there. So he was like the first anti-progenitor, so to speak, to exist. Do they know all of this? I know that the people that tried to crack it open didn't know all of this. I know that the courier didn't know all of this, but I do know that the order knew something like this. And all they knew is that they wanted power back. They were losing power. They've lost their portals. They don't have the connections to their brains coming from the DC region anymore. Then they thought, well, surely something good could happen on the 4th of July. Maybe we can get them anyway. I know. God help us all.
Literally.
Right. So I had no intention of opening this said box. No intention. And I would have deactivated it by the time he got here anyway. But we had to get rid of the being down there associated with it and the crystal, because it would have breathed life again, so to speak, into the lower astral. Yeah. And we don't want to do that. We've been working really, really hard to get rid of the whole place, and close the door and the programs and the matrices and everything else. We're certainly not going to start over again. I mean, unless there's not anything in this world that's going to make me start that over. And it's not, it's like now they want to have balance, but they don't want to have balance. They just want to have power back.
Yeah, exactly. They wouldn't want balance. That's just what they're saying now to get us to concede to do stuff. I mean, it should have been balanced all along, but they didn't play that game. So.
Exactly. Well, everybody's out, safe and sound. They still have the cryptex over there. They've tried some more things, like, for example, they know that there's a crystal or something in there, and they have synthetic dark matter there. They think it's light matter. Remember, they're confused. All science is confused. And they have tried to do things like, let's attach the FedNow system to it. Maybe it's a connection to the Omega system. Maybe, that was like Saturday, and I'm like, oh Lord, there is no hope for these people. No hope, like, at all. Mm-hmm. Then they brought out 2 more artifacts. One of them was a large ball, like a crystal ball, kind of bowling ball size, if you imagine a crystal ball. And there was some kind of a murky white energy in there. Murky. Mm-hmm. And then there was a large rod. Now, the rod is something we refer to as the star maker. So they were intending on using this crystal ball and this rod as leverage to get me to get the third piece of it done. So if I wanted my rod, which it is my rod, and I wanted the ball back, then I would surely open the box.
But you don't need those items, right? Like, why would they think that you needed any of that when you have the alpha system?
No, it's not just the alpha system. We have source on our side.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, having God on your side helps.
With one of these, I can make all of those I want.
Exactly. Exactly.
If he says you need a stick, you need a stick. If you don't need a stick. Now, the stick, to be fair, I do know the compilation of metals that it's made out of. Some of them are things you wouldn't even recognize, because you'd actually have to create them in a lab, because we don't have them here. It is old, very old. And it is what is normally utilized to conduct the light at the Iraq gate. Remember my story I told you a few weeks back where I pounded the stick in the ground? And I said, well, it's not quite a stick. It's this rod. Okay. It is also known as the star maker and the star breaker. It's been used by let's just say the bad people and the bad things, creatures, for a very long time. It was actually the rod that was utilized, and others like it, because it's not the only one in existence, and others like it, to create the loosh farming need. You remember the Abraxas had installed power packs in all of the stars. This was tied to the starlight system that people thought was going to come online and bring about the global currency reset. It's not exactly that kind of reset in any way. And And these power packs were required because stars were no longer producing their own energy. It is also tied to the fact that they said there's going to be 10 days of darkness and we're all going to die. Stock up on food, and then you can cash in your dinar.
So there was some actual meaning behind the 10 days of darkness with the white hats.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. So this star maker and star breaker actually had put out our sun at one point in time, which created what you know as the Ice Age.
Wow.
How's that for history of the world? But these humans don't understand how it works. They just know it's powerful. They just know it's mine. They just know it belongs to our side. They just cannot make it function. So it takes a specific type of essence to make all of this stuff happen. Now, the Abraxas had much more advanced technology. Obviously, so did the Destroyer at the time when the sun was put out, because the Destroyer, the Draco, and the Abraxas went around putting out your sun. And then if you wanted your sun back, which no sun, no star, no life.
Yep.
You had to start your Loosh farm, which we were for many, many years. A long time. Trying to remember when it happened here. I think it was like 1.5 billion years ago or something like that. And then that's how we became originally infested with all of these parasites. And our parasites tied to our energy and our etheric field, then fed the parasitical universe, which is the lower astral.
Yep.
That's what they used. They did it to our planets. They did it to the stars and the suns, and just about every place, fifth density and lower. So to continue on with the story, so obviously this was not going to happen. But I wanted to actually, if we had gotten this far, and if they had actually delivered it here, which was supposed to be on Friday, if they had actually delivered it here and they showed up, number one, I would have deactivated it ahead of time, just on the off chance being in my essence would have powered it up and breathed life back down there again, which I wasn't going to let happen. I had a plan. My plan was, and I had calculated every member of the order's net worth and combined it all only from a liquid cash standpoint. Not interested in houses and all of this stuff, right, at this point in time. So it was teetering somewhere between 17 billion and $20 billion. That was their liquid cash.
Mm-hmm.
And that's personal money, everything I could possibly find that was liquid. So I was going to make an offer in this particular case. Do you want money or do you want power? Do you believe in what is in this box so much that if I open this, that my fee would have been the exact amount that they had in all their accounts globally at that exact moment in time? So do you believe in what's in here? Do you believe this is going to change your world? Do you believe this is going to give you back power? And are you willing to give up everything for it? So, of course, we didn't quite get that far, but I just thought I'd tell you the story because I was sitting here waiting for this to show up and figure out that they figured out that they couldn't open it, but we never got that far. But there's always a plan. Back to the stick in the rod, that came Saturday. So they decided that they were going to take the cryptex on Saturday, try to hook it up. I'm not really sure why or how to the FedNow system. And then over there, you had another old guy with the ball and the rod at Menwith Hill in England, which is GCHQ. It's kind of like NSA, offshoot in the UK. You remember the big balls? You see them in Pine Gap. In Australia, you see them. That's basically what Menwith Hill looks like, and you can look it up. And so he was there with that. And I'm not really sure what they were doing. I think they were trying to open a portal that hasn't been there for years. I'm not sure with the ball. in the stick. Now the ball is actually something they stole out of a machine which was under the keystone in Malkoff Caves. So because it was a light ball, so to speak, it contained that essence, is what it was actually in there. They thought that their guy, I don't know, chosen one, some old guy, like really old guy, like 90-year-old guy, is like got this ball and the stick, and he's standing in Menwith Hill. And then I got the other guys over there with the cryptex, and I'm like, what the heck are these people trying to do? Are they trying to open this? Are they trying to? I don't even know if they knew what they were going to do. I don't know if they even knew what this crystal was all about, what the cryptex did, and what the ball was, and what the stick was, but they just felt that they were really, really important. Well, they don't have a stick anymore, they don't have a ball anymore, and they don't have a cryptex anymore. So game over for the agreement. How's that for the update on the agreement? Understood?
Wow. Yeah, there's a lot of components in there. There's a lot of stuff going on for sure. There's probably brand new information for a lot of people.
I know.
Wow.
See, I'm a wealth of useless knowledge. Not that it's useless, but you know.
Well, you took care of the situation, so we don't have to worry about it anymore. So.
Well, exactly. And I'm not interested in regaining any of our parasites or becoming a loosh farm again or anything like that. So we weren't going to let that happen.
So what happened to our buddy that's in the ninth density, lower density, or
non-existent?
He's gone. So
no poison rose, no dude, no crystals, no boxes, no base root systems, and there's many others like it. Like the one that was tied to China that they thought was going to fire up today was huge. That would have been a black version, the original dark essence, the black version of the orb that the gentleman in the UK was using. And I use the term gentleman loosely.
Right.
But there was and then there was a pedestal, and then there's rings and rings and rings of crystals all tied to an individual portal here on Earth so that they could conclude with their Independence Day alien invasion from 1996.
I already saw that movie. I don't need to go through that whole thing again.
Yeah. Well, it looks like fun. We could all become space cowboys.
Yeah. It was fun as a movie.
It was fun as a movie. That's right. There we go. We're not interested in participating in this.
No, thank you.
Their version of the Great Reset, so to speak. Don't worry if the sun goes out. It's okay. I
know. Did they not remember the Ice Age? Seriously, did we not learn from our history? It's like what the White House was saying earlier. We reported on
this is the thread. So if they manage to start the ball rolling, so to speak, and in the rod, then I would have had to renew that agreement. Had to.
I see.
To save us all. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I don't know who was the last person to sign it, about 2016 years ago, but I am not that person. Let me just tell you, I am not dumb. I'm not blind. I'm not deaf, and I'm not dumb. And I know the real history of the world. So that's fine.
Would it have had to been one of the guardians? The guardian at that time? It would have had to been
the guardian. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Do we know who that was? We don't know. Marduk wasn't the guardian at that time?
I would have said probably yes under global martial law. I would have probably said yes. So that's probably why it was so easily renewed. Could have been Nanu, could have been Marduk, it could have been any one of those people, I would venture to guess.
Okay.
And then you had Solomon at one point in time, and she obviously signed it, and here we are. It just keeps rotating every 1,008 years. So, like I said, it's very, very old. It is not new. It was part of the agreement to create the lower astral in the first place. It's protected by a very specific material, which is why they also had a problem looking inside what was in there. But Now I'm here to tell you. So there you go. Now, good news is that what's happened over the course of the last 24 hours is it appears the scientists from Middercorp are like, oh my God, you mean dark matter didn't create the universe? You know, and they're starting to do some research, which is a positive thing.
It is.
You know, and you know, maybe to all bad things, some good things happen as well, because they are smart people. You know, I know that they were being, you know, once these people go to work for like a corporation and have access, you know, they start you out as promising you the moon, stars, and the sun. You know, you'll have access to state-of-the-art equipment, hidden knowledge, nobody knows, blah, blah, blah. You know, and it's a nice sales pitch.
Right.
It's like buying a timeshare, you know. Just kidding. So and then they get in there and they realize who they're working for, and there's really nothing they can do. You know, at that point, these people are dangerous. And there were some dangerous people there as well that were forcing them, and the ones that were answering the phone for the order and telling them what to do. So we'll see. You know, we'll see if the people of the Midder Corporation, as word spreads amongst the groups, because there's a lot of those laboratories all over the place, we'll see if they can turn a corner, maybe. Who knows? With protection, of course. Yeah. And maybe, you know, they'll want to work in the science research and development centers. I mean, who knows? All hands on deck. You know, we're here to make it happen. We're not here to, you know, say, oh, you work for bad people. You know, you don't know what you don't know. That's what I'm saying. You know, and sometimes you got to give people an opportunity to make a different decision than they would have made if they had the protection and the awareness on what to do. Okay, so next, always busy. So we'll finish up with the other part of this. Let's just say the crazier side of this world, and we'll continue on with the gravity wave that's happening right now. So we have a supermoon happening right now. So we do have a positive charge coming to the planet in a lot of ways, as the supermoon, the large moon, which is about 14,000 miles closer to Earth than it normally is at this part in its orbit. And the Earth is creating a different kind of gravitational wave than we would have normally gotten due to all the changes in the cleaning of the moon. I would say you may experience some weirdness, and may have over the last couple of days due to this. It could be kind of feeling like you're in an elevator and the elevator's stopping and you're like, whoa, what the heck was that? You know, it depends on how sensitive you are. You may be tripping over your words. You know, your brain, like it's trying to adjust to a change in the gravitational field is what your body is trying to do. And it affects everybody differently. So this kind of hit a direct high at about 7:30, a little after a.m. Eastern Standard Time this morning. And it should probably continue on for the next couple of days, but it will become less and less, you know, as we get through these days and make these adjustments. So these are all positive things that are happening that have not happened before. It also has the capacity to change the atmospheric. So our atmosphere is made up of many different things. You know, people talk about ozone, the ozone layer. We talk about the water that's in the air, and a lot of other things that make up our air, things we don't want as well, obviously, have been in our air and been sprayed in our air constantly. And this is kind of, you can think of this sort of like a correcting, the beginnings of the correcting of the atmosphere of Earth and return it back to what it was. So we can start to see some changes from that now that the gate is open. So the gateway plus the keystones being wide open, the planes of existence being cleared and cleaned and reconnected, and all of the work that we've been doing on our end of it leads us to a place where now that light is what gets sucked, so to speak, into the moon and sucked into our atmosphere rapidly. So that's why these few days might be a little bit uncomfortable for us, because we haven't had this before, but it's going to change things for the better. So hang in there. It's not that bad. We'll make it through it. So I just wanted to let everybody know, like, if these are some things that you might be experiencing, this is the exact reason why, and it's going to be a positive thing in the long run. You know, that combined with the crazy people running around doing crazy stuff too. So that's also a factor.
It's like, what's causing it? Could be either, could be both.
I know. Essentially, it's always me. You know, at the end of the day,
comes down to Kim.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's always me. I bear the brunt of all of their how do I say, problems. So in addition to running all of this stuff this weekend, we are also past our date of the 30th at midnight.
That's right.
And as my understanding, the Federal Reserve had a very difficult time getting in the door this morning.
You don't say.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if they posted an eviction notice or not.
Maybe they forgot their keys.
Yeah, maybe they forgot that. Maybe the keys were changed. The locks were changed.
Locks.
Could be. So the asset seizing is on. Also, any remaining bonds or treasury notes or anything else the Federal Reserve was hanging on to are also now ours. We have taken all of those. We have also taken the remainder of the UN's bonds, World Bank bonds, COVID bonds, you name it, bonds that were coming out of the World Bank and the IMF. We now have them all for every country in the world. So we have seized all of their financial assets at this moment in time. Is my understanding they have also gotten the UN building in Geneva.
When you say they are, is this a silent circle involved? Is that who's going out and
It's
doing
a concerted effort between the silent circle and some positive people in militaries and agencies.
Okay.
And under martial law, they now have the ability to operate on U.S. soil, which they didn't have before, and they are wanting to see change in this country.
Good.
So, yeah, this is definitely a positive. And so they are on the move, also with the World Bank and the IMF in D.C., also no longer their property, as well as the remaining UN building in U.S., over a period of time, and this takes time. You know, we have all those UN outposts put there under the Obama administration all over the place, operating money laundering operations, say in Kenya as an example, on behalf of the Boko Haram, those places.
Yeah.
You know, remember the Boko Haram is actually technically a terrorist group, but somehow the UN is laundering money for them. So I don't know, really.
So they're a terrorist group too. That's what that means.
So I guess that makes you a terrorist group as well.
Pretty much.
I can think of many, many things that the United Nations does around the world to consider them a terrorist organization on U.S. soil.
Yeah.
Is pretty much what they are. Now, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of people that work there that don't know anything about what I'm talking to you about. They are there. They think they're helping the Indians. Indigenous people. They're helping with medical aid to countries. You know, they really go to work every day and they think this is what they're doing. It's bad management.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, the trust that's the global repository, let's call it, so nobody gets confused. The global repository is actually the one that bought that land and controls that land in New York. The land has been reassigned technically to CARE already. So now I just need to tear down the ugliest building in all of New York. If you haven't seen it, it's almost as ugly as 33 Thomas. It is ugly. I don't know who thought of that idea. You know, also a portal underneath there, also a black site underneath there. The entire building is full of surveillance equipment in the cement, in the walls. It's everywhere. It is a god-awful building that just needs to go. It cannot be fixed. It needs to be imploded and it needs to go away. And the whole thing needs to be fixed into something positive. Anyway, so just wanted to give you an update on that part. Now, as we're moving forward with these types of things, we get closer and closer to the release of the accounts that I've put out there.
For the countries you're talking about, Kim?
Yes.
Individual countries. Okay.
Yes, for the countries and for the people, because this is a fund that is not only for government funds, it's also for private project funds.
Okay.
And then the operational money, because people don't run around closing buildings and whatnot for free.
Sure.
That costs money. It costs money to guard those buildings. It costs money to make all this stuff happen in a positive way. So we are expecting to be able to do that in the next 24 to 48 hours, as long as everybody's on the same page, hoping.
Okay, so I'm almost scared to ask this, but so you said this is related to projects.
Uh-huh.
Does that mean people could begin project submissions at that time?
It'll take about a week or two for me to be ready with a portal to do that. So it's going to take from the day that it becomes available, I need to have at least 2 weeks to create a portal and the staff to manage it, so everybody doesn't think their projects are left on deaf ears.
Yes.
And like I said, this will be replicated in every country in the world. The other thing we're discussing is the creation in the future, which obviously wouldn't be an immediate thing, of a development bank in every single country, which belongs to that country in cooperation with CARE in order to handle macro and micro lending. So you might be in Africa and you could just want $500 for a fishing boat, and you can get it through your development bank in your country. So it's lending, I use that term loosely, grant funding, profit, nonprofit, that type of thing. But this is all things that take time. I know everybody's anxious, but there's a lot to consider on a global change. For example, we have drug companies. Not a fan. You're not a fan. We know that Pfizer, Moderna, all the big Johnson & Johnson, we know they're all run by basically agency people, and they also siphon off the top of all those companies. It's just the way that it works. We don't expect it to disappear overnight. Remember, 3/4 of the world doesn't, there'll be certain things that are, and no more mRNA, like that. But there are other things that they produce that people are used to, like aspirin, like ibuprofen, like insulin, there's a lot of things. And then, God forbid, what about all the patients on pain medications and opioids and all that kind of stuff? I'm not saying I'm a fan of any of this stuff, but I'm saying this is a very real situation that you're going to panic 90% of the planet if it just disappeared.
Yep.
Oh, here, take this essential oil instead. People are going to go, what? No. You want me to drink flowers? Seriously? So it's a process. The next thing, too, we need to consider as well, and this is for the people that are still together, that used to be assemblies and they're still talking. The other things we need to consider as well is oversight. So if we're going to keep this particular company in business, and if we're going to utilize them to eventually convert to cancer cures and other types of things, or natural medicines and other ways of doing things, which will take a huge amount of education for the entire planet before we ever get that far. You got to educate the entire medical community in the entire world. I mean, come on. The other thing that was going to be implemented as well is oversight. So we don't want them getting froggy one day and just deciding to wake up and to put more crap in our Cheerios, so to speak, or our medicines or anything else. So there'll be a constant quality control group. Right. The same thing is going to happen for construction projects, because what these people want to do is to see us fail. So they will not give us proper materials we need. For example, what happens if your building's rebar is not correct? You're not going to have a strong wall. What if your steel beams that you're putting into your tall building are not of the correct materials as quoted, with the same weight loads and so on and so forth that are quoted on the sheet? So this is going to require oversight, huge amounts of oversight for everything down to the last detail, to make sure that our potential new friends are actually going to do what they say they're going to do. They will sabotage your projects, your building by the building materials that are going in it and making sure that you're getting substandard materials, which will then cause disasters that can hurt people. And I have seen it happen. I have seen it happen when, say, the American military groups would go to another country and try to build something. They would build it with substandard materials. You have airports all over the world that are leaking, and they're barely buildings anymore that were put there by Chinese labor, from prisoners. So there's a lot of things that happen in this world that cannot happen anymore. We are here to build proper infrastructure. And even though your project sounds like it's a great idea, and I'm sure it is, say you want to build a homeless shelter. What happens if they give you substandard building materials? Will you know? Will your contractor know? Have they been tested? Is this the correct stuff that you actually need? You might know you need a beam, but do you know what it should be made of? Do you know, is it just steel? No, it's not. Does it have the proper coatings on it? How long is this going to last? What kind of materials are these? This is what the job of oversight is going to be. Okay. There'll also be oversight as it relates to government spending as well. The idea, when we created a separate portfolio for private projects and private funding and those types of things, there is no reason whatsoever governments should be funding things like American Airlines and Delta Airlines and BlackRock and all of these people coming from government funding.
Right. There's
no reason for it. The money is there. It's separate. It's there. And the 23 trillion that they see there here in the United States is just the tip of the iceberg. It's not the end, it's the beginning. Mm-hmm. It's the equivalent of the GDP for a reason of the United States. So we need to start separating church and state. It's not an overnight process. It's going to take a lot of people some time to really understand what it is we're saying and what we're doing. And sometimes, they have been going in a direction, and this isn't even just a human thought. This is a thought of the change of industries. How many people work in the oil industry, for example? How many countries are pretty much dependent on the income from oil and gas? How do we address this if we were to go to definitely not electric power, by the way, neutrino-powered cars, which it can be done. There's many other ways too, but this is one of them that's non-caustic. If you get into a car accident, it's not going to explode. There's a lot of other technologies out there that can be utilized as well. And you don't need to, your battery lasts 50 years. So that's great. I know. I mean, it makes perfect sense to me, but, not to the deep state who sells oil and gas. Well, it's healthier for the environment. It actually helps the environment. It actually makes the people who are driving in the car healthier instead of sicker if you're stuck in a traffic jam. Eventually, maybe we want flying cars. Who knows? But you've got to figure out the start where you are. You got to meet the world where it's at. Yep. You're sitting down at this poker game and the hand's been played by somebody else for a long time. And now you got to figure out how to fix it. And then at the end of the road, where do we want to be? Where do we want to go? And then you fill in all the steps in between. What if I did this? What if I did that? Who is this going to affect? How do we change this? How do we get them to maybe be shareholders, as an example, in the neutrino-powered car? Can we manufacture them? Will they make money selling said car and said batteries, so to speak, for said car? How do we incorporate all that exists so that countries don't fall apart, so the world doesn't fall apart, so the people don't fall apart and lose thousands and thousands of jobs? It's a process. So when you ask about projects, it's a lot more complicated than people might think. In ways, unfortunately, I've learned to live with how are they going to do bad things to humans?
Yeah.
How are they going to smile in your face, take your money and stab you in the back? How are they going to do this? And unfortunately, I've had to live my life like this for the last almost 15 years. So I'm kind of getting pretty used to how they do it down to the level. What if you needed a chemical, say, maybe not a caustic chemical, but something you're considering green chemical, and they send you cyanide. And little do you know that you just poisoned everybody drinking Kool-Aid. I'm not saying, also not a fan of Kool-Aid, but you don't know.
Right. You don't know what you don't know. Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know. You might be trying to do something positive. You might be trying to bottle water. You might be trying to drill a well in Africa somewhere or something like that, but you don't know.
What happens, Kim? Like, will there be repercussions if they are successful doing something like this?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes. This is the defense of your life or the life of an innocent.
Okay.
So
it falls under natural law.
Oh, of course it does.
Okay.
Again, this is the positive part about working with military people. Like, people are like, what is the military going to do if there's no more wars? Theater.
Mm-hmm.
You can do a lot of things, really. All of this is safety and security. You don't need to carry a gun that is theater gun. I mean, people die from guns every day. Trust me, I understand that. But you're going to eventually evolve into equipment that is actually going to defend this planet.
Yep.
Eventually, there'll be a global alliance of people that will be defending this planet. And you're going to really learn how to do it, because I'm telling you right now, I'm tired. I don't want to do this forever. We also have crazy people. If you put 100 people in a room, 5% of them are going to be outright evil murderers, and they want to kill everybody on the planet, and they're horrible people. The other 5%, another 5% will probably be outright saintly. They're going to be just doing the right thing every day. They're going to walk around and pray for everybody and never hurt a fly or a flea or anything. Then everybody else is somewhere in between. And on any given day, it could go one, everybody to the left, everybody to the right, and people are going to be, that's just the way it is currently at this moment. And you got to meet the world where the world is at. Nobody is going to automatically understand that you're doing something wonderful in a country from day one. And then they're going to question it, because think about all the people that come in, like the World Bank, and they feed the world, and they Red Cross, and because they do a great job. And, think about all of the things that these people have done. So if they see a foreigner coming in, and trying to do something positive or give money or anything else to a country, they're going to automatically look at you like you're a terrorist. And that's the world that we've created. We didn't create this world this way. It's just we're meeting the world where it's at. We're not going to wake up one day and there's going to be no tax authority, and we're going to go back to a spending tax, and it's going to happen in one day. I mean, I'd love for that to happen, but there's a whole personnel shuffle that has to happen. There has to be a whole restructuring for that. Maybe we'll use the Fed buildings. Who knows? Just not kidding. Not kidding. The old IRS buildings, there's thousands and thousands of people that work there. And what do we do with the people? Do we just all say, well, you just lost your job, have a great day?
Yeah, it's not good. Yeah.
No, it's not good. So we have to think like this. Transitions will happen. You will start to see them happening. It's just understand, I'm not being mean. I'm not being rude. I'm not trying to say, well, what, project funding, will it be ready in a day? Who's going to answer your email? How many emails can one person answer in a day? That's why the administration fee is there. I need people. Will need, okay, so please don't bombard HR right now. I will need people to do all kinds of things, filing, categorizing, moving stuff around, and project analysis and financial analysis and oversight and all the things that go into making sure that you're a success.
Yeah.
We want you to be successful. We've got a shot at restoration for the first time ever in the history of this planet. We got a big responsibility on our shoulders. It's not just mine, it's yours too. We're going to make it count. So anyway, did that answer your question, Miss Sunny?
Yes. I can't remember what the question was, but yes.
You asked me about project funding becoming available.
That was a long answer then. That was like 10 minutes ago I asked that.
I'm wordy.
I'm kidding. No,
I had words today.
Because people obviously want to know, and I was a little hesitant because I'm like, oh, Sunny, I don't know if you should bring that up, but I'm glad I did, because we are moving forward and because things are happening. And so I think that's encouraging for people to hear, because so much of this happens behind the scenes and we don't really necessarily, we may feel something like we were talking about earlier, like your mood may change or you may feel a little wobbly today, whatever is going on. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, we can't see a lot of this stuff happening. So I think that's when it gets really exciting for people, when we say, okay, we're right there.
But it takes very careful planning, and it takes a lot of hard work on behalf of, on a lot of people's part to actually organize it. And you've got to actually organize it first. So now you get to sit down and you're going to say, okay, here are the things we've discussed. What can we do? What's the first step? Who do we need? Who's going to do it? And now once you've come up with that full lengthy plan, and this is where care admin comes in, and, different people have different specialties, but this is a process so you can get to where you want to go.
Right.
There'll hopefully be some relief between now and then. There's a lot more negotiations on the table too. There's, what do we do with all the people that were promised all this money all these years? What do you do with the RV or whatever, what do we do? So there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot a lot of people that were hurt living in parking lots and whatnot. So though, we really have to make some decisions here on, who are we making friends with and who are we not? Mm-hmm. And then give it the opportunity. If our alleged friend, so to speak, becomes our enemy, that's it. Have a good day. There's a zero tolerance policy on this side. We are not the order. Mm-hmm. We actually know how to structure things, and we don't need somebody else to think for us. Yeah. So anyway, that's about the World Situation Report. It's kind of chock full of a bunch of stuff.
Lots of stuff. Yeah.
I know.
Good though.
Good information.
So no alien invasion tomorrow.
You can put out a few extra hamburgers and hot dogs on your barbecue if you're American.
Well, if they're benevolent, come on by. I've got no problem with that. It's the bad ones I don't want.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And you got to be careful too. Nobody knows what's in a hot dog. Nobody.
It's true. I wouldn't subject that to our new friends.
I know.
Pass on that one.
I know. I just thought about that. I'm like, no. Maybe grill some vegetables and some fruits or something like that. Could be.
Exactly. All right.
I really like ice cream. No, just kidding. But anyway, hopefully not. It doesn't appear to be so at this moment. We'll get back to work and try to see if we can finish cleaning everything up. I know they're angry. They're very angry. They did not get their aliens.
There's a movie, I think Independence Day is on DVD if they want to rent it and pretend some stuff happened,
Yeah. Well, they could. Yeah, they could get some VR glasses.
Yeah, make it more realistic,
Yeah. Didn't we almost have it all? You can start singing.
Exactly.
Well, onward and upward for us.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they're not going down either. So
they're stuck. They're stuck.
I know. So if you're American, have a wonderful holiday tomorrow. I hope you're spending time with friends and family, enjoying your drone show, which apparently is becoming all the rage. I know we got that here because we have no burn right now. And I hope you have a wonderful day. And to everyone, I guess I'll see you on Wednesday.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Sunny.
That wraps up our news update for